The stars shimmered like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse of space. Commander Elias Drake sat slumped in the pilot's seat of his damaged spacecraft, Aurora, sweat dripping down his forehead as alarms blared around him. His knuckles were white from gripping the controls, but no amount of skill could save the ship now. A rogue asteroid had torn through its hull, leaving it spiraling out of control toward an uncharted moon. Elias clenched his jaw, forcing himself to focus despite the chaos. He wasn't just a soldier. He was humanity's ambassador to the unknown. If he survived this crash, someone would need to tell Earth what happened here, or perhaps find answers that could change everything. The impact came hard and fast. Metal screeched against rock as the Aurora skidded across the alien terrain before finally coming to rest in a cloud of dust. Pain shot through Elias's side, but adrenaline kept him moving. Stumbling out of the wreckage, he surveyed his surroundings. The landscape glowed faintly under twin moons, casting eerie shadows over jagged cliffs and strange, crystalline plants that hummed softly in the breeze. But there was something else, a presence. It felt alive. Before Elias could process the thought, a figure emerged from behind one of the glowing formations. She moved with grace, her skin shimmering like liquid starlight. Her eyes, large and luminous, locked onto his with an intensity that made his breath catch. This wasn't some random creature. It was intelligent, sentient. "Who are you?" Elias managed to ask, though his voice cracked from exhaustion. The being tilted her head slightly, studying him as if he were both fascinating and foreign. Then, without warning, words formed in his mind, not spoken aloud, but communicated directly into his thoughts. "You are injured. Come." Elias hesitated. Was this a rescue or a trap? But his body betrayed him. Every step sent waves of pain through his ribs, and staying put wasn't an option. Slowly, he followed her. She led him to a hidden alcove sheltered by towering crystal structures. Inside, she gestured for him to sit while producing a small vial filled with a glowing blue liquid. Again, her voice echoed in his mind. "Drink. It will help." "What is it?" Elias asked suspiciously, eyeing the vial. "Trust me," came the reply. There was no malice in her tone, only calm assurance. Reluctantly, Elias drank. Almost instantly, warmth spread through his veins, dulling the pain and clearing his head. He looked up at her, astonished. "Thank you," he said aloud, unsure if she understood spoken language. Her lips curved into what might have been a smile. "I am Liria," she told him telepathically. "Princess of the Zenari." "The Zenari?" Elias repeated, furrowing his brow. "That's your species." Liria nodded, then gestured to the world outside. "This is our home. You have trespassed upon sacred ground." "I didn't mean to," Elias replied quickly. "My ship. I lost control." Liria studied him silently for a moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke again. "You are not like us, yet you live among the stars, as we do. Tell me, human, why has your kind come so far?" Elias hesitated. How much should he reveal? Humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial life hadn't gone according to plan in the past. Still, something about Liria, her curiosity, her quiet strength, made him want to trust her. "We're explorers," he explained, "looking for knowledge, for connection. We hope to meet others like you someday." For the first time, Liria seemed genuinely intrigued. She settled beside him, her movements fluid and deliberate. Over the next few hours, they exchanged stories, or rather, Elias did most of the talking. He described Earth, its oceans and mountains, its bustling cities and endless skies. In return, Liria shared fragments of her own world, painting vivid pictures in his mind of the Zenari civilization. Their luminous cities powered by energy harvested from stars, their deep reverence for nature, and their complex social hierarchy centered around harmony and balance. As night fell, or what passed for night on this alien moon, Elias found himself captivated by Liria. She was unlike anyone he'd ever met, yet there was a warmth to her that transcended their differences. For the first time since crashing, he allowed himself to relax, lulled by the soft glow of the crystals and the steady rhythm of her breathing. But even as sleep claimed him, Ilias couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was more than mere chance. Somewhere in the depths of Liria's gaze, he sensed secrets waiting to be uncovered, and perhaps dangers he couldn't yet imagine. Little did he know, his arrival had already set events in motion that would alter the course of two civilizations forever. Days turned into weeks as Ilias recovered under Liria's care. The shimmering alcove where she had brought him became a sanctuary, shielded from the harsh winds and glowing with an otherworldly light. Each morning, Liria would return with food, delicate fruits that tasted like nothing Ilias had ever experienced, and more of the glowing blue liquid that healed his wounds faster than any medicine on earth. At first, their interactions were cautious. Liria asked countless questions about humanity, her curiosity insatiable. She wanted to know everything: how humans built their cities, how they communicated without telepathy, and why they seemed so driven to explore the stars. Ilias answered as best he could, though he often found himself struggling to explain concepts like greed, war, and ambition. These ideas seemed alien to Liria, whose people valued balance above all else. In turn, Ilias learned about the Zenari. They were a deeply spiritual race, connected not only to each other through telepathic bonds, but also to the natural world around them. Their society thrived on harmony, with every decision weighed against its impact on the ecosystem. It was a stark contrast to humanity's relentless pursuit of progress, and Ilias couldn't help but feel a pang of shame when comparing the two. Despite their differences, a bond began to form between them. Liria's presence was calming, almost magnetic, and Ilias found himself looking forward to their conversations. He admired her intelligence, her grace, and the quiet strength that radiated from her. For her part, Liria was equally fascinated by Ilias. His resilience, humor, and unyielding optimism stood out in sharp relief against the stoic demeanor of her own people. But not everyone approved of their growing connection. Word of the human intruder had spread quickly among the Zenari, and whispers of dissent reached Liria's ears. Her advisors, particularly Counselor Valen, a stern elder with piercing yellow eyes, urged her to sever ties with Ilias immediately. "He is dangerous, Your Highness," Valen warned one evening during a council meeting. "His kind is unpredictable, destructive. Allowing him to remain here risks contaminating our way of life." Liria listened patiently, her expression unreadable. When it was her turn to speak, she addressed the council with calm authority. "Ilias is no threat. He is injured, alone, and far from his home. Would you have me abandon him to die?" "It is not compassion I question, Princess," Valen replied sharply. "It is your judgment. The prophecy speaks of a union between worlds, one that will either save us or destroy us. Do you truly believe this? Human plays no part in it." Liria's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her composure. "Prophecies are open to interpretation," she said firmly. "I will not act based on fear or superstition." The council adjourned, leaving Liria troubled. She hadn't told Ilias about the prophecy. It was ancient lore, vague and often dismissed as myth. Yet now, doubts crept into her mind. Could his arrival really be tied to the fate of her people? And if so, what role was she meant to play? One evening, as the twin moons bathed the landscape in silvery light, Liria invited Ilias to join her at the Festival of Stars, a sacred event celebrated by the Zenari. The festival took place in a vast clearing surrounded by towering crystal formations, their surfaces pulsating with soft, rhythmic glows. Hundreds of Zenari gathered, their bioluminescent skin creating a sea of shifting colors. Ilias felt out of place among the crowd, but Liria reassured him. "This is a time of unity," she explained. "We share our emotions, our memories, to strengthen our bond as a people. Tonight, you will witness something few outsiders ever see." As the ceremony began, The Zenari linked hands, forming a massive circle. A low hum filled the air, resonating deep within Elias's chest. Then Liria extended her hand to him. "Join us," she urged. Hesitant but unwilling to refuse, Elias stepped forward and clasped her hand. Instantly, a surge of energy coursed through him, unlike anything he'd ever felt. Images flooded his mind, memories of Liria's childhood, visions of her people's history, and glimpses of futures yet unwritten. Overwhelmed, he stumbled backward, breaking the connection. The crowd gasped, murmuring in disbelief. Never before had a non-Zenari participated in the ritual, let alone triggered such a reaction. Liria steadied Elias, concern etched on her face. "Are you all right?" I think so," Elias stammered, still reeling from the experience. "What just happened?" Before Liria could answer, Counselor Valen approached, his expression grim. "This confirms it," he declared loudly enough for others to hear. "The prophecy has been awakened. This human is a harbinger of change. Whether for good or ill remains to be seen." Tension rippled through the gathering. Some Zenari regarded Elias with suspicion, while others looked on with awe. Liria stepped protectively in front of him, her voice firm. "Enough. Whatever the prophecy means, we will face it together." That night, as they walked back to the alcove, Elias couldn't shake the weight of what had transpired. "Liria," he began hesitantly, "what exactly is this prophecy everyone keeps talking about?" Liria sighed, her shoulders heavy with responsibility. "It foretells a union between a Zenari and someone from beyond the stars, a bond that will reshape our destiny. Many fear it, believing it signals chaos. But She paused, searching for the right words. "I believe it might mean hope." Elias met her gaze, seeing the uncertainty behind her confident facade. "And you think I'm part of it?" "I don't know," Liria admitted softly. "But I do know this. You've already changed my life, Elias. Whether for better or worse, only time will tell." As they stood beneath the glowing moons, neither realized how profoundly true those words would become. The seeds of destiny had been sown, and there was no turning back. The days following the Festival of Stars were tense. Whispers spread like wildfire among the Zenari, fueled by fear and speculation about Elias's role in the prophecy. Some viewed him as a savior sent to usher in a new era of prosperity, while others saw him as a harbinger of doom who would unravel their carefully balanced society. For Liria, navigating these divided opinions became increasingly difficult. Elias, too, felt the weight of their scrutiny. Though he tried to stay out of sight, retreating to the alcove whenever possible, the stares and hushed conversations followed him everywhere. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was an outsider thrust into a world he barely understood, a world where his presence carried consequences far beyond anything he could have imagined. Despite the growing tension, Liria refused to let Elias leave. She visited him daily, bringing food, updates on the council's debates, and reassurance that she wouldn't abandon him. Their bond deepened with each passing day, though neither dared to speak openly about what it meant or where it might lead. One evening, as they sat together beneath the twin moons, Liria suddenly pressed a hand to her forehead, wincing in pain. Concerned, Elias leaned closer. "Are you all right?" I'm fine," she murmured, though her voice betrayed uncertainty. Over the next few days, her condition worsened. She grew fatigued more easily. Her movements sluggish, and faint glowing patterns began spreading across her skin, patterns unlike anything Elias had seen before. "Liria, this isn't normal," Elias insisted one morning when she stumbled while walking. "You need help." Reluctantly, she agreed to visit the royal healers. The journey to the capital city was short but fraught with unease. As they entered the grand palace adorned with shimmering crystals and flowing waterfalls, Elias noticed how the guards eyed him with suspicion. He kept his distance, allowing Liria to address the healers alone. Inside the healing chamber, Liria lay on a platform infused with pulsating light. The healers worked silently, their hands hovering over her body as they probed her energy fields. After what felt like hours, the head healer turned to Liria, his expression unreadable. "Princess," he began solemnly, "your condition is unprecedented. It appears you are carrying a life within you, a hybrid offspring conceived through the psychic bond formed during the Festival of Stars." Liria froze, her breath catching in her throat. "A child," she whispered, disbelief coloring her tone. "But how is that possible?" "The bond you share with the human has triggered a biological phenomenon we've never encountered," the healer explained. "Your energies intertwined at a fundamental level, creating something entirely new. This child will be neither fully Zanari nor fully human, but something greater." Shock rippled through Liria. Her mind raced with questions, fears, and fragments of ancient texts she had studied as a young princess. Could this child truly fulfill the prophecy, or would its existence bring ruin upon her people? When she emerged from the chamber, Elias immediately sensed something was wrong. "Liria," he asked gently, "what did they say?" She hesitated, searching for the right words. Finally, she took a deep breath and met his gaze. "Elias, there's something I need to tell you." Her voice trembled as she explained the healer's diagnosis. At first, Elias stared at her in stunned silence, unable to process what he was hearing. A child. With him. The idea seemed impossible, yet the evidence was undeniable. "This changes everything," Elias said finally, running a hand through his hair. "If the council already distrusts me, what will they do when they find out about this?" "They won't harm you," Liria assured him quickly, though doubt flickered in her eyes. "I won't let them." "But can you stop them?" Elias countered. "Liria, your people are afraid. They see me as a threat, and now," he gestured helplessly, "now there's a baby involved. What if they think it's better to eliminate the problem altogether?" Liria flinched at his words, knowing they weren't unfounded. The Zanari valued harmony above all else, and the unknown represented chaos. If the council deemed the child too dangerous, they might act without hesitation. That night, Liria sought guidance from her father, Emperor Solon. Seated in the grand hall overlooking the glowing cityscape, she recounted everything: the bond, the prophecy, and the healer's revelation. Solon listened quietly, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he sighed heavily. "Daughter, you must understand the gravity of this situation. Our people are divided, and fear breeds violence. If word of this reaches the public—" "It doesn't have to," Liria interrupted. "We can keep it quiet until the child is born. By then, perhaps we'll know more about its nature, and whether it truly fulfills the prophecy." Solon shook his head. "Secrecy won't hold forever. Rumors will spread, and when they do, the council will demand answers. You must prepare yourself. And him, for what lies ahead." Liria returned to the alcove later that night, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. Elias greeted her with a tentative smile, but the worry in his eyes mirrored her own. "We'll figure this out," he said softly, reaching for her hand. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Though his words offered comfort, Liria knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. The bond between them had sparked something extraordinary, but it had also ignited a firestorm of fear and uncertainty, and as the days passed, the weight of their secret grew heavier with each sunrise. Little did they know, forces beyond their control were already moving against them. The council's patience was wearing thin, and whispers of rebellion echoed through the halls of the palace. Time was running out, for Liria, for Elias, and for the fragile hope they carried within them. The days that followed were a blur of tension and fear. Liria and Elias knew they couldn't stay in the palace indefinitely, not with the council growing increasingly hostile. Whispers of rebellion had turned into outright threats, and it was only a matter of time before someone acted on them. Liria's advisors urged her to distance herself from Elias, warning that his presence endangered not only her, but also the unborn child. Yet, despite their pleas, she refused to abandon him. "We're stronger together," she insisted during one heated meeting with her father, Emperor Solon. "If we run now, it will look like we have something to hide. But if we stand firm, we can prove that this bond, this life, isn't a threat. It's a gift." Solon sighed deeply, rubbing his temples as though the weight of the empire rested solely on his shoulders. "Liria, my daughter, I want to believe you. But the council is restless, and the people are afraid. Fear breeds irrationality. If we don't act carefully, this situation could spiral out of control." Elias listened silently from the corner of the room, feeling both grateful for Liria's loyalty and guilty for the chaos he brought upon her world. He clenched his fists, determined to find a way to help. "Your Majesty," he said finally, stepping forward, "I may not understand your culture fully, but I know one thing: running won't solve anything. Let me help. There has to be a way to show your people that this child isn't a threat. It's a symbol of hope." Solon studied Elias for a long moment, his sharp gaze assessing every detail. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Very well. But know this: if you fail, the consequences will fall not just on you, but on everyone." Their first step was gathering allies. Liria reached out to Kale, a disgraced warrior who had once served as her personal guard before being stripped of his rank, due to a failed mission years ago. Though bitter and reclusive, Kale still held a deep respect for the royal family, and a simmering resentment toward the council for their rigid ways. When Liria approached him, Kale crossed his arms, his glowing skin dimmed by shadows. "What do you want from me, princess?" he asked gruffly. "I'm no hero anymore. I need someone I can trust," Liria replied firmly. "Someone willing to fight for what's right, even when others won't." Kale hesitated, then let out a low chuckle. "You always did have a knack for roping me into impossible missions." With a reluctant nod, he agreed to join their cause. Together, the trio devised a plan to leave the capital under the cover of darkness. Their destination: the ruins of Irinder, an ancient site believed to hold answers about the prophecy and the origins of the Zaneri species. It was a perilous journey, riddled with dangers both natural and man-made, but it was their best chance at uncovering the truth. The escape itself was harrowing. As they slipped through hidden tunnels beneath the palace, alarms blared behind them, signaling their betrayal. Councillor Valen led the pursuit, his voice echoing through the corridors. "Stop them. They must not reach the ruins." Bursting into the open air, the group sprinted across jagged cliffs and glowing fields, pursued by armed guards and drones equipped with energy weapons. Kale took point, using his combat skills to disable several pursuers while Elias and Liria pressed onward. At one point, Elias shielded Liria from a falling drone, wincing as shards of debris grazed his arm. "You shouldn't risk yourself for me," Liria said breathlessly as they ran. "Isn't that what partners do?" Elias shot back, managing a faint smile despite the danger. "Besides, I promised to protect you, and our child." Their journey grew more treacherous as they ventured deeper into uncharted territory. The landscape shifted dramatically, from crystalline forests to barren wastelands, dotted with towering spires of black stone. Strange creatures lurked in the shadows, their glowing eyes tracking the fugitives' every move. Hunger and exhaustion gnawed at them, but they pressed on, driven by desperation. One night, as they camped near a bubbling pool of luminescent liquid, Kale voiced his doubts. "Do you really think these ruins hold the answers we need, or are we chasing ghosts?" Liria stared into the shimmering water, her reflection rippling with uncertainty. "I don't know," she admitted softly. "But I have to believe there's a reason we're here. The prophecy didn't bring us together randomly. There's purpose in this, somewhere." Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll find it, whatever it takes." When they finally reached the ruins of Irinder, the sight took their breath away. Massive stone structures carved with intricate glyphs rose against the horizon, glowing faintly under the twin moons. The air hummed with energy, almost alive with history. As they explored the ruins, they discovered murals depicting scenes of unity between the Zineri and another intelligent race, a forgotten people who had interbred with the Zineri ancestors to save them from extinction. Elias traced his fingers over the images, realization dawning. "This is proof," he murmured. "Your people were saved by outsiders once before. Maybe this prophecy isn't about destruction, it's about renewal." Liria's eyes widened as she absorbed the implications. If we can show this to the council, maybe they'll listen. Maybe they'll see that change doesn't have to mean chaos. But as they prepared to document their findings, disaster struck. A hidden sensor triggered an alarm, summoning reinforcements from the council. Within minutes, they were surrounded by drones and soldiers, their weapons trained on the trio. Councillor Valen stepped forward, his expression cold. "It's over, Princess. Surrender now, or face the consequences." Kale tightened his grip on his weapon, ready to fight, but Liria raised a hand to stop him. "No," she said firmly. "We've come too far to give up now." With a defiant glance at Elias, she activated a device Cal had salvaged earlier, a portable cloaking generator designed to mask their presence. In an instant, they vanished from sight, leaving Valen and his forces scrambling. As they fled into the night, Elias couldn't help but marvel at Liria's courage. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for a future where differences didn't divide but united. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, one thing was clear: they would face it side by side. For better or worse, the trials of survival had only just begun. The cloaking device bought them precious time, but it wasn't foolproof. Its energy reserves dwindled with each passing hour, and the trio knew they couldn't rely on it indefinitely. As they navigated through dense crystalline forests and rocky canyons, the hum of pursuit drones echoed faintly in the distance. The Council's forces were relentless, determined to capture or eliminate the fugitives. Elias glanced over his shoulder frequently, his heart pounding as he helped Liria climb over jagged terrain. Her condition was worsening. Fatigue lined her features, and the glowing patterns on her skin pulsed erratically. Though she tried to hide it, Elias could see the toll this journey was taking on her body and their unborn child. "We need to rest," Kale said finally, halting near a cluster of towering crystal formations that shimmered like frozen waterfalls. "If we keep pushing, we'll collapse before we even reach safety." Liria hesitated, her gaze darting toward the horizon, where the faint glow of searchlights flickered. "We don't have time," she murmured. "Every moment we delay puts us closer to being caught. And every moment you push yourself risks the baby," Elias countered firmly. His tone softened as he placed a hand on her shoulder. "Please, Liria, just for a little while. You're not just fighting for yourself anymore." Reluctantly, she nodded, sinking onto a smooth rock beneath the shelter of the crystals. Kale took up a defensive position nearby, scanning the area for signs of danger while Elias rummaged through their dwindling supplies. He handed Liria a small vial of the glowing blue liquid she had given him when they first met. "Drink this," he urged. "It'll help." She accepted it without argument, though her eyes betrayed the weight of her worries. "What happens if we fail, Elias?" she asked quietly. "What if the Council refuses to listen? What if they see this child as a threat no matter what we do?" Elias knelt beside her, meeting her gaze with unwavering resolve. "Then we'll fight. Together. We've already proven that we can survive against impossible odds. If they won't listen, we'll make them understand, by showing them that fear doesn't have to rule their decisions." His words brought a flicker of hope to Liria's face, but it was short-lived. Moments later, Cal's sharp intake of breath drew their attention. "We're not alone," he whispered urgently, pointing toward the edge of the clearing. From the shadows emerged three figures clad in dark armor, their faces obscured by sleek visors. They moved silently, weapons drawn, clearly intent on capturing, or eliminating, their targets. Before anyone could react, Kale sprang into action, tackling one assailant to the ground. A flurry of energy bolts lit up the night as the remaining two opened fire. "Go," Kale shouted, grappling with his opponent. "I'll hold them off." "No," Liria cried, torn between fleeing and staying to help. But Elias grabbed her arm, pulling her away. "He's buying us time," he yelled. "We can't waste it." As they sprinted deeper into the forest, guilt gnawed at Elias. Leaving Kale behind felt wrong. It went against everything he believed in. But he knew they had no choice. Their mission depended on reaching the ancient archives hidden within the ruins, where they hoped to find definitive proof of the prophecy's true meaning. Hours later, they reached the entrance to the underground archive. A massive stone doorway etched with intricate glyphs that glowed faintly under the twin moons. Using fragments of knowledge gleaned from the ruins of Irinder, Liria deciphered the symbols, triggering the mechanism that opened the door. Inside, the air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of centuries-old dust. The chamber was vast, filled with holographic displays and rows of data crystals suspended in stasis fields. Liria's hands trembled as she activated one of the displays, revealing images and texts detailing the history of the Zenari species. What they discovered shocked them both. Long ago, the Zenari had faced extinction due to a genetic flaw that threatened their survival. Desperate, they formed an alliance with another intelligent race, the Lumari, beings who shared many traits with humans. Through interbreeding, the two species created a hybrid lineage that eventually became the modern Zenari. The process was fraught with challenges, including societal upheaval and resistance from purists who feared contamination of their bloodline. "This is it," Elias breathed, staring at the holograms. "This proves that your people survived because of outsiders, not despite them. Your ancestors embraced change, even when it scared them. That's what this prophecy is about: unity, renewal, hope." Liria's eyes glistened with tears as she absorbed the revelation. "But will the council believe it?" she asked softly. "Will my father?" Before Elias could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the chamber. Turning, they saw Cal enter, battered but alive. Relief flooded Elias's chest until he noticed the tension in Cal's posture. "They know we're here," Cal said grimly. "And they're coming in force." Suddenly, betrayal struck from within their ranks. Cal's expression shifted, his glowing skin dimming as he stepped aside to reveal Counselor Valen and a squad of armed guards. "You thought you could outrun justice." Valen sneered. "This ends now." Elias instinctively moved in front of Liria, shielding her as best he could. "Kale," Liria whispered, her voice breaking. "Why?" Kale avoided her gaze, shame written across his face. "I didn't have a choice," he muttered. "They promised me redemption if I delivered you." Valen smirked, raising a weapon. "Enough talk. Take them." But before the guards could act, a powerful surge of energy erupted from Liria, knocking everyone, including herself, off their feet. When the dust settled, Elias scrambled to her side, finding her unconscious but alive. Seizing the opportunity, he grabbed one of the data crystals containing the evidence they'd uncovered and tucked it into his pocket. With determination burning in his chest, Elias hoisted Liria into his arms and fled deeper into the labyrinthine archive, knowing their only chance lay in exposing the truth, even if it cost them everything. Elias moved as quickly as he could through the dimly lit corridors of the ancient archive, Liria's unconscious form cradled carefully in his arms. The weight of her body pressed against him, a constant reminder of the stakes. They weren't just fighting for their lives, but for the fragile hope they carried within them. Behind him, the shouts of Counselor Valen and his guards echoed like thunder, growing louder with each passing second. "Find them." Valen barked, his voice sharp with fury. "They cannot escape." Elias clenched his jaw, focusing on the path ahead. He didn't dare look back. Every moment spent hesitating brought the council closer to capturing, or worse, harming, Liria. His mind raced, searching for a way out of this labyrinth. The archive was vast, its twisting passages lined with glowing crystals that cast eerie shadows on the walls. Somewhere in this maze had to be an exit, or at least a place to hide until Liria regained consciousness. As he turned a corner, Elias spotted a narrow alcove partially concealed by a fallen pillar. Without hesitation, he slipped inside, gently lowering Liria to the ground. Her breathing was shallow but steady, and the faint glow of her skin pulsed softly in the darkness. He crouched beside her, listening intently as the sound of footsteps grew nearer. The guards passed by without noticing the alcove, their attention focused on the main corridor. Elias exhaled slowly, relief washing over him, if only momentarily. They were safe for now, but they couldn't stay hidden forever. He needed a plan. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours before Liria stirred, her eyelids fluttering open. She blinked up at Elias, confusion clouding her features. "What happened?" she murmured, wincing as she tried to sit up. "You collapsed," Elias explained quietly, helping her lean against the wall. "There was some kind of energy surge. You knocked everyone off their feet." Liria frowned, pressing a hand to her temple. "I don't remember doing that." "It doesn't matter right now," Elias said firmly. "We need to focus on getting out of here and making sure the council hears the truth." He pulled the data crystal from his pocket, holding it up so she could see it. "This contains everything we found about your ancestors, the proof that unity saved your people once before. If we can show it to your father and the council, maybe we can change their minds." Liria nodded weakly, determination flickering in her eyes despite her exhaustion. "Then we have to try." Their escape wasn't easy. Moving cautiously through the archive, they avoided patrols and used the glowing crystals to mask their movements. At one point, they stumbled upon Kale, who stood alone near a crumbling staircase. His expression was conflicted, guilt etched into every line of his face. "Kale," Liria said sharply, her tone colder than Elias had ever heard it. "Why are you here?" "I came to warn you," Kale replied, his voice low and urgent. "Valen knows where you're headed. He's setting a trap near the exit." Elias stepped forward, his fists clenched. "After what you did, why should we trust you?" Kale flinched but held his ground. "Because I was wrong," he admitted bitterly. "I let my pride blind me. When I saw how far you've come, to protect not just yourselves but our people, I realized I made a mistake. I won't make excuses, but I'll do whatever it takes to fix this." For a long moment, Liria stared at him, her emotions warring between anger and forgiveness. Finally, she sighed. "Fine. But if you betray us again, there won't be another chance." Kale nodded solemnly. "Understood." With Cal's help, they navigated toward the exit, avoiding the ambush Valen had set. Along the way, Kale revealed that the council's fears ran deeper than they'd imagined. A faction known as the Purists, led by Valen himself, believed that any deviation from pure Zenari heritage would lead to the downfall of their civilization. They saw Liria's pregnancy as a direct threat to their ideals and were willing to go to extreme lengths to eliminate it. "They've been manipulating events behind the scenes for years," Kale explained grimly, "using fear and propaganda to turn the council against outsiders and anyone who supports them." Elias exchanged a glance with Liria, both understanding the enormity of the challenge ahead. Exposing the truth wouldn't just require evidence, it would demand courage and unity among those still willing to listen. When they finally reached the surface, dawn was breaking, casting golden light over the alien landscape. The sight filled Elias with renewed hope, even as the distant hum of drones signaled that their pursuers were closing in. "We need to get this crystal to my father," Liria said urgently, clutching Elias's arm. "If anyone can stand against the Purists, it's him." But as they prepared to move, a figure emerged from the shadows. Emperor Solon. He stood tall and regal, his glowing skin radiating authority. Flanked by a small contingent of loyal guards, he regarded the group with a mixture of concern and resolve. "Liria," he said gravely, his voice carrying the weight of command. "You've caused quite a disturbance." "Father," Liria began, stepping forward. "Please, hear me out. This isn't about rebellion, it's about survival. Our ancestors embraced change when they faced extinction. We must do the same." Solon studied her for a long moment, then glanced at Elias and the data crystal in his hand. "Show me," he said simply. Inside the palace, the emperor convened an emergency session of the council. Tensions ran high as Liria presented the evidence uncovered in the archive. The holographic displays revealed the history of the Zenari-Lumeri alliance, proving that interbreeding had saved their species from annihilation. Gasps rippled through the chamber as the truth came to light. Councillor Valen attempted to discredit the findings, accusing Elias of fabricating the data. But Kel stepped forward, exposing the purists' manipulations and confessing his role in their schemes. His testimony shattered the facade of unity among the council, sparking outrage and calls for accountability. In the end, Emperor Solon silenced the room with a single raised hand. "Enough," he declared, his voice echoing with finality. "My daughter has shown us that fear cannot guide our decisions. This child, this union, is not a threat. It is a symbol of hope, a reminder of who we are and what we can become." Though the purists continued to resist, their influence waned in the face of overwhelming support for Liria and Elias. For the first time since their journey began, the couple allowed themselves to believe that reconciliation was possible, not just between species, but within themselves. Yet even as peace seemed within reach, Elias knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. Change rarely came easily, but together they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The days following the council's decision were a whirlwind of activity. News of Liria's pregnancy and the prophecy spread rapidly, igniting debates across the Zenari Empire. While many embraced the idea of unity and renewal, others remained skeptical or outright hostile. The purists, though weakened by Valen's exposure, still held sway over certain factions, sowing seeds of dissent in the shadows. Yet, amidst the turmoil, there was an undeniable sense that something monumental was unfolding. Elias and Liria stood at the center of it all, their bond stronger than ever. They had weathered betrayal, fear, and uncertainty together, proving that love could transcend even the deepest divides. For Elias, this realization was both humbling and empowering. He had started as an outsider, a human crash-landed on an alien world, but now he was seen as a symbol of hope, not just for humanity, but for the Zenari as well. Liria, too, found herself transformed. Once bound by duty and tradition, she had learned to trust her instincts and follow her heart. Her relationship with Elias had taught her that leadership wasn't about maintaining order at any cost. It was about fostering understanding, compassion, and progress. Together, they became a beacon of possibility, showing their people that differences didn't have to divide. They could enrich. As the months passed, preparations began for the birth of the child. The royal healers worked tirelessly to ensure Liria's health, combining Zenari technology with innovations Elias suggested based on human medical practices. It was a testament to their shared determination and a reflection of what two species working together could achieve. On the night of the birth, the palace was alive with anticipation. Glowing crystals illuminated the halls, casting soft light over the gathered crowd. Zenari citizens from every corner of the empire watched via holographic broadcasts, holding their breath as the moment approached. Even those who harbored doubts couldn't deny the significance of what was about to happen. When the child finally arrived, a collective gasp rippled through the audience. The infant glowed faintly, its skin shimmering like starlight, while subtle hues of human warmth radiated beneath. It was neither fully Zenari nor fully human, but something entirely new, proof that unity could create beauty beyond imagination. Emperor Solon stepped forward, cradling his grandchild in his arms. His voice trembled with emotion as he addressed the crowd. "This child represents our future, a bridge between worlds, a promise of harmony and growth. Let us honor their arrival by choosing peace over fear, understanding over division." Cheers erupted, echoing through the palace and spilling out into the streets. Across the empire, celebrations broke out, marking the beginning of a new era. Music filled the air, and glowing lanterns were released into the sky, symbolizing hope and renewal. In the days that followed, Elias and Liria took on roles they never imagined. They became ambassadors of sorts, traveling to different regions of the Zenari Empire to foster connections between humans and Zenari alike. Their story inspired countless others, sparking collaborations in science, art, and culture. Slowly but surely, barriers began to fall, replaced by bridges built on mutual respect and curiosity. For Elias, the experience was bittersweet. Though he cherished his life with Liria and their child, he missed Earth, the blue skies, the oceans, the laughter of friends and family. Yet when he looked into his child's eyes, he knew he'd made the right choice. This was his purpose now, to help forge a brighter future for all sentient beings. Liria often expressed similar sentiments. She longed for simpler times before the weight of destiny rested on her shoulders, yet she wouldn't trade the joy of raising their child or the lessons she'd learned alongside Elias. Together, they balanced each other's strengths and weaknesses, creating a partnership rooted in trust and resilience. One evening, as they stood beneath the twin moons, watching their child play among the glowing crystals, Elias turned to Liria with a smile. "Do you think we've done enough? Changed enough?" Liria chuckled softly, leaning her head against his shoulder. "Change is never truly finished, but I think we've given them a chance, a better one than we had." Elias nodded, wrapping an arm around her. "And maybe that's enough." Their journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Through trials and triumphs, they had proven that courage and love could overcome even the greatest challenges. As they gazed up at the stars together, they knew their story was just the beginning, not just for themselves, but for the countless lives touched by their actions. Somewhere among those distant constellations lay infinite possibilities, and for the first time, humanity and the Zenari would face them side by side, united by hope, purpose, and the unbreakable bond of a child who carried the dreams of two worlds within them. It was a new dawn, one that promised brighter days ahead.